Monsieur le Président de l'Union africaine, Son Excellence Monsieur Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz, Sa Majesté Felipe VI, Roi d'Espagne,
Majesty Felipe VI, King of Spain, Madame Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Madame Dlamini Zuma, Excellencies Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and of governments, Excellency Sam Kutesa, President of the General Assembly of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to be among you today. The year that has started is crucial as regards the global action that we need to undertake to secure our future. We now have come to the end date that we set for the MDGs that have brought a lot of progress on this continent. We are also going to adopt a new program of development, a post-2015 development agenda that including the Sustainable Development Goals that will trace the path for the next generation of development activities. I hope that Africa will be represented at the highest level when this program will be adopted in New York in September this year. The rate and the pace, indeed, is accelerating through to the adoption in December in Paris of a concrete climate change agreement that will be universal. It is for the African continent that the stakes remain high, for which these negotiations will provide stakes that remain high. Indeed, it's in July that in Addis Ababa, this very important conference for financing for development will be held, that we shall set up the required success for this initiative. Without resources, these commitments that we undertake to promote development, sustainable development, will just be words. Therefore,
distinguished heads of state and government, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, women must be at the center and front of all our life. I applaud your focus at this summit, women's empowerment and development towards Africa's Agenda 2063. Africa is a home to parliament and cabinet with the world's highest percentage of women members. But we have much more work to do to unleash the tremendous potential of Africa's women and girls. They need better access to secondary education, decent work, and economic opportunities. They need more help to combat maternal mortality and poverty and genital mutilation. They need more protection from the scourge of violence at the hands of men and boys. Gender equality and the empowerment of women are at the heart of the AU's Agenda 2063, which I hope you will formally adopt at this summit meeting. But women and girls cannot wait. Neither can Africa and the wider world. While I appreciate and support Agenda 2063, I would strongly call and urge all of you, when it comes to women's rights, to make a deep and lasting difference to the lives of African women and girls by 2020. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, last month I traveled to the Ebola-affected countries of Guinea, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Mali. I thank the African governments and the African people for your support and solidarity and generous contributions. We are seeing clear signs of progress. I urge the international community to commit more resources at this critical time. This outbreak shows the risk that fragile health systems pose for our interconnected world. Affordable quality health care must be a central feature of Africa's development agenda. The remarkable success of polio eradication and efforts to combat AIDS across the continent show what we can achieve by acting together. Mesdames et Messieurs, Excellences, au cours de l'année qui vient de s'achever, nous avons progressé dans notre action commune en faveur de la paix et de la sécurité. La mission conjointe
mission of high level that we had carried out in conjunction with the economic communities of West Africa, ECOWAS, has facilitated opening a dialogue and to agreement in Burkina Faso. In Somalia, the efforts that have been deployed, and we continue to do so together, to establish sustainable peace has given fruit. Our two organizations, African Union and the United Nations, as well as IGAD, have worked hand in glove to support the political process. We should continue and pursue this action in order to consolidate our accomplishments and to maintain the dynamic that we had in 2015. And I pay tribute to the courage and commitment that the members of AMISOM have continued to manifest in their combat against Al-Shabaab. In Central African Republic, it is very crucial that we continue to collaborate to protect civilians and to fight against impunity. As regards the Sudan, the United Nations and the African Union pursue their partnership. I am a little preoccupied by the conflict that continue now in Darfur and other areas, and we hope that the process of national dialogue would be further reinforced. In Democratic Republic of Congo and in the Great Lakes region, we need to carry out a decisive action, particularly in neutralizing the FDLR, Force Democratic of Liberation of Rwanda, FDLR, for peace, to ensure that peace and stability can be reestablished. The signatories of the Agreement for Peace and Security and Cooperation need to respect all the commitments that they had signed to. The situation that prevails in Libya destabilizes the region. The International Contact Group and the Special of the African Union, as well as my own Special Representative, continue to urge the parties to end this bloodbath and to engage in a political dialogue.
Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, we must also redouble our joint efforts to secure peace and stability in South Sudan. I welcome the recent agreement between President Salva Kiir and Dr. Machar and urge South Sudan's leaders to reach an immediate and inclusive power-sharing agreement with a transitional government. They must make sure that the agreement is implemented in order to end this man-made tragedy. In Nigeria and beyond, we are all appalled by the brutality of Boko Haram, which poses a clear danger to national, regional, and international peace and security. This group continues to kill Christians and Muslims, kidnap women and children, and destroy churches and mosques. We will never forget the girls and boys kidnapped from Chibok last April, and I will never stop calling for their immediate and unconditional release. The humanitarian consequences are enormous, with up to 1 million people forced from their homes. I welcome your decision to focus specifically on this serious threat in the Peace and Security Council of the African Union. I am encouraged by progress towards the African Standby Force and the African capacity for crisis response. I urge you to make these mechanisms operational. The United Nations is reviewing its peace mission operations, including its peacekeeping missions and special political missions. Your contribution will be invaluable. African troops are a backbone of our peacekeeping capacity, and we rely heavily on our peacekeeping capacity on the full cooperation of national governments that host UN peacekeeping operations. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, terrorism knows no boundaries and affects African countries in the Horn, the Sahel, and elsewhere. No grievances or cause justifies terror. At the same time, let us remember that counter-terror efforts that fail to respect human rights can make the problem worse. There have been positive developments this year in many African countries on democracy, governance, and human rights. I welcome the affirmation of the rights of LGBT individuals by the AU's Human Rights Commission and the Cotonou Declaration on the abolition of the death penalty in Africa. The AU has a long record of supporting democratic transitions. I hope the elections that take place in African countries this year will be as peaceful and successful as Tunisia, Botswana, Malawi, and others were in 2014. I congratulate the people and government of Zambia on their successful presidential election last week. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, people around the world have expressed their concern about leaders who refuse to leave office when their terms end. I share those concerns. Undemocratic constitutional changes and legal loopholes should never be used to cling to power. I urge all leaders in Africa and around the world to listen to your people. Modern leaders cannot afford to ignore the wishes and aspirations of those they represent. I also call on AU member states to stand up for accountability, which is critical to end impunity and for post-conflict reconciliation. I welcome the AU Commission of Inquiry report on South Sudan and the final report of the Commission of Inquiry for the Central African Republic. Distinguished heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, this year marks the 70th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. African membership of our organization has gone from 4 member states to 54 member states now. African countries have been the backbone and the integral part and leading part of the United Nations since the day they achieved independence. We have been with you since our birth. Now, many African countries are taking dramatic steps toward realizing their massive cultural, human, and economic potential. The United Nations, and I personally, as the Secretary General of the United Nations, will continue to stand with Africa as your partner and strongest supporter. In this critical year, we need Africa to help guide the way to a world of sustainability and dignity for all the people, where nobody will be left behind. Let us work together to make this world better, and I count on your leadership and strong commitment. Thank you very much. Merci.
Nous vous remercions, Excellence, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général.
I thank you, Excellency.
Permettez-moi maintenant d'inviter très respectueusement
Allow me now to very respectfully invite His Excellency Sam Kutisa, President of the 69th session of the UN General Assembly, to deliver his statement.
Your Excellency, Mohammed Ordri Abdulaziz, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairman of the African Union, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Nkosazana Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm greatly honored to address this 24th ordinary session of the Assembly of African Heads of State and Government in my capacity as President of the 69th session of the United Nations General Assembly. I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you today on the work of the General Assembly. I will specifically focus on the upcoming events and activities related to the priorities I set for the 69th session. Before I do so, allow me to salute the steadfast efforts of the governments and people of Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone in responding to the Ebola outbreak. I also commend the support provided by regional and international partners, including ECOWAS, the African Union, and the United Nations. I call upon the international community to continue supporting these countries, especially in their long-term recovery and rebuilding stronger and resilient health systems. Your Excellencies, this year, 2015, is particularly important for the United Nations. It is also important for Africa. While it marks 70 years since the founding of the United Nations, the African Union is also set to adopt its 50-year socio-economic development framework through Vision 2063. At the UN this year, we have 3 major ongoing processes to be concluded before the end of the year. These include the 3rd International Conference on Financing for Development in July, the post-2015 Sustainable Development Agenda in September, and the Conference of Parties on Climate Change, COP21, in December. 15 years ago, in 2000, Your Excellencies joined other world leaders and adopted the Millennium Declaration with its constituent 8 Millennium Development Goals, MDGs. 2015 is the target year for their realization. MDGs have had significant impact on many African countries, although it has been uneven across goals and countries. We should spare no effort to accelerate progress towards achieving the MDGs in the remaining period. Upon my election as President of the UN General Assembly, I selected delivering on and implementing a transformative post-2015 development agenda as the theme of the 69th session. I'm glad to inform you that on 19th January, I launched the negotiating process to the successor framework to the MDGs, and it is appropriately referred to as the post-2015 Sustainable Development Agenda negotiations. Unlike the MDGs, however, the new agenda will encompass all three dimensions of sustainable development, that is to say, the social, economic, and environmental aspects. Using sustainable development goals as the main basis for negotiations, the agenda's overarching objective is to eradicate poverty and improve people's lives. Inevitably, it is critical to ensure that adequate means of implementation, including financing, technology development and transfer, and capacity building, are incorporated, as the new agenda encompasses more than social economic issues. The amount of resources also required will be much greater than was for the MDGs. At national levels, we need to increase domestic resources, both public and private, attract more foreign direct investment, and strengthen global partnerships. We also need to find ways to incentivize the private sector, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, capital markets, and other stakeholders to make the critical investments needed. Official development assistance alone will not be sufficient to finance the required transformative agenda. It is important to note that the outcome of the third International Conference on Financing for Development, which is scheduled to take place here in Addis Ababa in July, will be very important in providing resources required for the new agenda. Africa must be deeply involved in these negotiations because they matter to our future. Meanwhile, I'm convening a high-level thematic debate on the means of implementation for the transformative post-2015 development agenda in New York on the 9th-10th February to focus on this very important issue. Excellencies, the adverse effects of climate change are being acutely felt across Africa, threatening food security and undermining efforts to eradicate poverty and achieve sustainable development. Africa's efforts through COHOSOC have been laudable and were well received at COP 2020 in Lima. As we build up for COP 21 in Paris, with the expectation for an internationally binding agreement on climate change, it remains important to maintain our resolve towards ensuring adequate mitigation and adaptation measures. Similar efforts should be exerted to ensure financing for climate change technologies, including investment in renewable clean energy technologies. On the 29th of June, I will convene a high-level event on climate change to maintain the political momentum and galvanize efforts at the midpoint between COP20 and COP21 in Paris. Excellencies, the theme of this summit, Women Empowerment and Africa's Development for Conceptualization of Agenda 2063, is both important and timely. As we celebrate 20 years of Beijing Declaration and Platform of Action, I will convene a high-level thematic debate on 6th of March to galvanize political commitment and action towards achieving greater gender equality and women empowerment. In this new era of Africa's progress, we must not shy away from taking bold decisions to empower women and girls. The outcomes of your summit here will be an important input in this global debate. The other priorities and issues of interest to the 69th session include strengthening cooperation between the United Nations and regional and sub-regional organizations. AU and UN cooperation, including with sub-regional organizations, has delivered tangible positive results. To enhance this cooperation, I am convening a high-level thematic debate on strengthening cooperation between the United Nations and regional and sub-regional organizations on 4th of May. Addressing the threat of terrorism and extremism through promoting dialogue, tolerance, and reconciliation. The recent terrorist attacks in Nigeria, Somalia, Kenya, Pakistan, Uganda, and France, elsewhere around the world, are a stark reminder of the threat posed by groups such as ISIS, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, and others. We need collective action to defeat them. Excellencies, in conclusion, one of the major priorities of my presidency is the reform of the Security Council. The Security Council is the most undemocratic institution we have in the entire architecture of the United Nations. And needs to be revised to take into account current global realities. This is our 70th year of the United Nations, and this reform must be acted upon. My effort in this session is to work towards the text-based negotiations within the intergovernmental process. For the last 20 years, we have been talking and repeating our positions, and it's almost like a broken record. I think it's time we moved ahead. This, Your Excellency, is just part of the work ahead, but there is a lot more to be done, and I am committed to ensure positive outcomes. In the days ahead, it will be my honor and privilege to invite some of you, Excellencies, to participate in some of the high-level thematic debates and events outlined here. Once again, I'm grateful to you for your support and request you to remain actively engaged as we discharge the responsibility of leading the General Assembly this session of the 69th session of the UN. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Now I am honored to invite very respectfully His Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine and President of the Executive Committee of the PLO. You have the floor, sir.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فخامة الأخ الرئيس محمد
Excellency Mohammed Abdel Aziz,
دولة صديق هيلا
Your Excellency Haile Mariam Desalegn,
السيد بان كيمون
Mr. Ban Ki-moon,
السيد سام كوتيسا
Mr. Sam Kutesa,
معالي السيدة
Your Excellency Madame Zuma, Your Excellencies,
ممثلي الدول
representatives of states, Excellencies,
والسادة
ladies and gentlemen.
السلام عليكم ورحمة
Assalamu alaikum.
يطيب لي
I am pleased
أن أكون معكم
to be with you today at the 24th session of the Conference of the African Union in Addis Ababa, the capital city of friendly Ethiopia, wishing to your Union and its member states more successes in favor of the welfare of your countries and your peoples. And I am confident, fully confident, that the African Union and great sacrifices will succeed in achieving your aspirations, and that each of your nations and your peoples has rich history of selflessness and glorious sacrifices. And each of your states and nations is a source of inspiration for us and for our people, our struggling people in Palestine and in the diaspora, and for our researchers and our militants to realize their constant national rights and liberty, sovereignty and independence on the Palestinian national land, taking inspiration from the experiences of our people, which will shine the light on my people's struggle. As you all know, ladies and gentlemen, we feel deep sorrow and sadness for the decease of King Abdullah ibn Abdul Aziz, king of the Saudi Arabian kingdom. He was a wise and courageous leader that gave to Palestine a lot, and especially the Arab Peace Initiative, that we consider to be one of the most invaluable and precious initiatives that can resolve the Arab-Israeli conflict as soon as it is implemented. Now that we are encouraged with the presence of King Salman ibn Abdul Aziz, and we are sure that they will continue to support us and support the just cases and throughout the world, and including the African states. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, we know that your summit is rich of very sensitive and very important and crucial issues for your peoples, among which peace and security. In light of what is experienced by some of your countries through the practices of some currents of thoughts that are characterized by extremisms in their ideas and in their beliefs, and their tendency to violence and terrorism, especially what is happening in Somalia, Nigeria, Kenya, and Mali, and elsewhere in the African-friendly countries that experience waves of terrorism that are strongly condemned by Palestine. In this respect, it is condemning terrorism. We took part beside the French President François Hollande and a number of leaders of the world, condemning the terrorist acts that took place recently in Paris. In this context, we strongly condemn the terrorist attacks against the Egyptian military yesterday in Sinai, and that took the lives of a number of soldiers and officers. And we declare that we stand beside the Arab Republic of Egypt in its war against terrorism in order to eradicate it completely. And we are confident that Egypt will be victorious, and would like to extend to His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and the families of the victims our sincere condolences and speedy recovery to the injured. In addition to that, a number of states of this continent needs a lot of work and a lot of endeavors in the field of infrastructure and energy, water and power as well as trains, roads, investment, clean energy, healthcare, and the fight against diseases, especially in West Africa. All these are important issues and elements that should be addressed, and that will improve, while addressed, they will improve or lead to the development of Africa and the welfare of its people and the well-being of the populations, as well as the revenues of the families and individuals. We in Palestine are fully available and ready to cooperate with you, to provide you with expertise, our human expertise, and to exchange experiences and expertise with you. We have quite a number of qualified human resources that are able to and ready to put their experience and expertise available to you as part of the partnership and cooperation existing between us. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most important drivers for development and growth in our societies is to give the women what they deserve in terms of education and care. Any society that falls short of its innovative half, that is, the women, will remain a poor, miserable, and unable society. While educating the women and ensuring that they have their full rights and on equal footing with men, we will be able to build our societies to combat diseases. And we know that this African continent is facing the danger of disease. And we do congratulate you and commend you on the efforts that you are making in combating these diseases. And the international community as a whole should morally and humanely do their best in order to help the African continent combating these diseases that affect millions of human beings. In this respect, I would like to highly appreciate the achievements that have been made in the field of women's rights and its empowerment over the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, while we highly appreciate the friendship that ties us with your countries and your peoples that since their independence are our dear friends, and we count on them today to support the aspirations of our Palestinian people in order for them to have their liberty and independence, and also to build the Palestinian state, sovereign state with its capital city, Eastern Quds. And we are aware that Africa, that has always stood by us during the last decades, have been supporting our rights, and that it will continue supporting and showing its solidarity with us. And our last move in the Security Council that has been unfortunately thwarted would not preclude our friends to stick to justice and to continue supporting our people and its just cause. Once again, I would like to thank you, dear friends, for your kind attention, and I would like to thank you for adopting the cause of Palestine and the declaration that will come out of your summit. And I wish to your summit full success, and to the continent African and the African Union more development, prosperity, and to your peoples, friendly peoples, more welfare and prosperity. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
vous remercions, Monsieur le Président.
We thank you, Mr. President. Allow me at this juncture to very humbly invite His Excellency, Mr. Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairman of the African Union, to make his statement, his opening statement. Before I start my speech, on your behalf, I would like us to express our condolences to the people and government of Egypt following the events that led to the loss of lives of many Egyptian people. I'd like to reaffirm our solidarity with the people and government of Egypt as they continue to fight against terrorism and extremism. Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, Excellency Mr. Haile Mariam Desalegn, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine and Chairman of the Executive Committee of the PLO, Excellencies, heads of delegations, Excellencies, our First Ladies, Excellency, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, UN Secretary General, Excellency, Mr. Sam Kutesa, President of the UN Secretary General Assembly, Your Excellency, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of you all, I would like to pay homage to His Excellency, Mr. Michael Chilufya Sata, the President of the Republic of Zambia, who unfortunately left us on the 28th of October 2014. On this very sad occasion, I want to express to the people and government of Zambia, and even to the family of late President, our condolences. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, on behalf of you all, we would like to sincerely thank our brother, His Excellency Mr. Haile Mariam Desalegn, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and also through him express our gratitude to the people of Ethiopia for their warm welcome and generous hospitality that we all have enjoyed ever since we arrived here in this beautiful African capital, Addis Ababa. I'm also particularly pleased to congratulate you all and wish you all the best for the new year 2015. I do hope that 2015 will come along with tidings of peace, progress and prosperity for the African continent. Very warmly, I want to acknowledge the presence of my brother, Mr. Mahmoud Abbas, the President of the State of Palestine and the Chairperson of the Executive Committee of the PLO. His presence here among us testifies to the support of the African Union to the just cause of the Palestinian people. My sincere gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations Organization, for his constant effort at preserving peace and security in Africa, and also his efforts towards furthering our development. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm equally honored and pleased to congratulate on behalf of you all, my brothers, the heads of state and government who were recently elected in their respective countries. I have, for example, His Excellency Sheikh Professor Dr. El Haj Yahya Al Jammeh, President of the Republic of the Gambia, His Excellency Mr. Beji Kai Sepsi, President of the Republic of Tunisia, His Excellency Mr. Philip Nyusi, newly elected President of the Republic of Mozambique, His Excellency Mr. Edgar Lungi, newly elected President of the Zambia. We also would like to congratulate Mr. Michel Kafando, the transitional President of Burkina Faso. He was recently unanimously designated by all the stakeholders of the people of Burkina Faso. My dear brothers, I would like to tell you that we're ready to give you all our support and to show you the solidarity that you deserve to run your countries. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to express to my brothers and colleagues, heads of state and government, my esteem and support to them for all the efforts that they are making to give Africa the place it deserves on the map. I also appreciate the work done by the Commission under the able leadership of my sister, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Chairperson of the Commission, who is working with a lot of courage and shows that she's really devoted to see that our country, our continent moves smoothly. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 1 year, you gave me the honor, you gave me and my country to chair our continental organization in order that together we can achieve during our term, which comes to an end today, noble objectives that meet the aspirations of our people, particularly through strengthening the role of Africa in the world and to preserve its rich diversity, consolidate democracy, liberty, freedom, peace, security, stability, good governance, to make sure that at the end of the day, the people of Africa have a better life. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen,